guys, it's denipon here and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a video talking to you guys about Titan Quest 2. I was very fortunate to be invited into the playtest recently and I got a chance to play a bit of the game. If you're new here, I am an avid PoE player and ARPG enjoyer. I actually stream Path of Exile almost every day on Twitch. Let's just jump right into it. So I believe that the original Titan Quest game came out in 2006 and it is a ARPG that has a focus on classical mythology. I believe I've heard it said like pre-Roman times, and the game devs were highly focused on creating realistic towns and environments for the player to experience through their ARPG level up experience. You have to take this with a grain of salt because I didn't get to play Titan Quest myself when it first came out. But going into Titan Quest 2, I feel like they're definitely sticking to those themes. So in my experience, in my time playtesting, it seems that they're focusing heavily on this Greek lore, with you being the player character dealing with not only gaining power and guidance from the gods, but also being hunted and chased down by them. When it comes to playstyle of the game, I believe it's probably more similar to something like Diablo 2, but it's definitely a bit more on the methodical, slow version of gameplay. It's not the same, it's not as quick or as fast-paced as playing PoE 1. If you guys really like playing Path of Exile, you know that at some point your character you're working very hard to get your character to be like lightning fast and being able to clear screens of monsters. Titan Quest 2 doesn't feel like that. I think some of you might laugh when I say this, but PoE 2 has talked about having more meaningful combat, but in Titan Quest 2 it definitely had that feeling of meaningful combat. I would have to say the things that I really enjoyed the most about the game is the art direction and like just the general style of the game. When I was playing, I would say that I want to compare it to something kind of like Baldur's Gate or even Divinity. So most RPGs have that like isometric top-down look to it, and I would say that a lot of the dev teams out there try and put effort into the environments that you're experiencing, but Titan Quest feels more like a game that they really want to immerse your character and yourself in the lore and the environments that are around you. Like, the game looks beautiful. You can walk up to the rivers and the lakes and you can see the fish swimming and the shadow effects and the way the sunbeams enter a cave area, a cave secret side area that you might appear in. The music so far, from what I experienced, very on par with the environment and the world building that they're trying to do. It makes you feel like you're in some ancient Greek civilization. I definitely feel that the devs and the design team spent a lot of time and effort to make some very, very, very beautiful environments. I think like it's a feast for the eyes. And sound design was pretty interesting too, because I feel like when I was playing, I was also able to notice how close or far something was just based off the audio. Skill animations I think are pretty good. I didn't do too much experimentation. I think like once you actually invest like your experience points or your divinity points into some different schools, you begin to see more interesting skills. But I like how they have this system where you're able to basically cook up your own class, your own build, just by combining a couple of different masteries, I believe that they're called. When I started out, I ended up playing like some pseudo caster. I actually ended up using Fisher pretty early. And while I thought it looked really good, for me, I'm probably just not like a very good melee player. I kind of struggled, but I do think that the skills overall look and feel very nice. Really what blew me away about the game is, one, that you don't have to do this, like, you're not playing the game for 2 hours before you actually are able to ascend or choose your mastery classes or start picking up new skills besides like I'm using a basic auto attack with a bow, or I'm just using a basic staff attack. And I'm honestly just stunned by how beautiful the game is. Like, it is really quite beautiful. Right now, I feel as though I didn't really have that many issues with the user interface overall, but I think that they still need to work a bit on like the left mouse button. I believe they call it like contextual clicking. I know some people might prefer playing WASD. That, I don't know, for some reason it like messes my brain up and I just get confused. But when I was using left mouse button for like attacking monsters, it actually made me play 10 times worse, because as you're clicking for movement, if there's enemies nearby, they start to, like, you begin to auto attack said enemy or casting a skill at said enemy. So I feel like there was like a boss fight I was struggling on, and literally as soon as I just took a skill off, left mouse click, and just made it movement only, the boss fight went easy peasy, no problems. So I don't know how they can fix that. I think that also becomes like an issue with games where they like limit the amount of buttons you have to like allocate for skills. Like if you only have so many toolbars. You know, I do think that Path of Exile does a pretty good job of having not, you know, like whatever QWER, left click, right click, middle mouse click, or however you choose to hotkey them. And then the altered of using like control and said buttons. This didn't really seem to have that, so I'm choosing to lose either some sort of skill on left mouse just so I can move my character around without it being impeded. I'm sure this is probably just something that's something that's fixed if I were to swap over to playing WASD instead. But you know I'm not the only one that feels like they'd rather just click versus, you know, using both hands to move my character. I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels like that, and hopefully in the future they'll find some way to make that work. Combat pacing, I think once I started getting my character going and I started to unlock other masteries and I was able to like plan out my build, I definitely felt more powerful within the game. So I chose to go both Earth and Storm, so it was a combination of trying to do like lightning damage and also fire damage. I don't know if that's, you know, BIS, but for me it was fun. I just liked having all the skill effects. I do think it forces the character, like it gives me the feeling of either playing something similar to Lost Ark or playing PoE 2, more so on the punishing side, because there is that like roll mechanic, so you can avoid enemy damage. You know, like if you perfectly time your roll, you should, in theory, not get hit. But like a game like Lost Ark, which is not quite in the same genre, but I feel like some of these games share control mechanics in some ways. Whereas in PoE, you have like you don't have a cooldown. There's no cooldown on your roll, or like there is a cooldown, but there's no limitation. You have to wait for charges to come back before you can roll again. So if you mistime it, you're like out of luck. So I feel like that forces you to be like a more adept player, or just more willing to die over and over until you can figure it out. But I mean, that's also not really a problem either. I think that's just part of learning these games, and gets better with time, with skill. I do wish that I think that there is some need for like better explanation of inputting passive points and like how you take them out and how important it is to allocate them early. Because there are like little notices in the game. And I figured it out, but I've definitely watched other people play and then like accidentally unallocate every single one of their masteries. It's not entirely clear that you could put points into things like your basic attack or putting points into your shield. That's another thing that I think is pretty cool. They have this like mechanic where everyone has like a shell type of shield, a bubble shield, and you put points into that. Where like when you use it, it also removes debuffs and things like that. So I think that's a pretty interesting mechanic to add into the game, that everyone just gets that straight off the bat. I really like that you don't have to play the game for a really long time before you even get to your second mastery. It does feel like it's more sandboxy in the way that you're just able to combine what you want and play how you want and see how it goes. I'm sure there's going to be build creators out there who tell you that there's something that's optimized, but for me personally, when I'm playing a new ARPG, most of the joy for playing the game is exploring the environment and seeing how far I can take my character with my own innate knowledge and my own ability to, you know, figure out the systems that are presented to me. Some games kind of suffer in that aspect, like they're just, you can, as much as you might want to make something work, it just ends up not working. But I feel from what I played, the little bit that I played, it feels like I can do almost whatever I feel is whatever I dream up. I do think they also might need to work a little bit more on controller controls. I just think more ARPGs in general need to consider controller players, because that is like at the end of the day, it's like untapped marketplace. It's like untapped users that you could get into your game, because not everyone wants to sit and play mouse and keyboard. I think this is a kind of game that would be really fun for like OG ARPG players, or someone who's looking for a story and more of like exploratory, slow-paced gameplay. I don't mean that in a bad way. I feel like there's always room for a different type of ARPG to either get people into ARPGs or just to keep it fresh so that people want to rotate and play all of them throughout the year. I definitely find that people who have an appreciation for like deep thought into art style, or like I don't want to say art style, art direction, or people who really are fans of games like Diablo 2 probably would enjoy this. So I think this would be good for people who just like enjoy games that give you like a little bit of nostalgia, a more simplistic way of creating character builds, and definitely like exploration heavy. Like it's very rewarding for you to like search every little nook and cranny and see what might be down this ladder or in this cave or in this random hole in the floor. And I like that. When I play Baldur's Gate, I am checking every possible area because I just want to experience and see all the little things that the devs work so hard to put in there. So I definitely think players like that would enjoy Titan Quest 2. How would I compare this to both Path of Exile and things like Last Epoch? I would definitely say it's more slower paced, simpler systems that still manage to give you a feeling of depth when it comes to putting your build together. Fortunately, you don't need to worry about opening up the giant sphere grid of a passive tree. I know a lot of people find that intimidating when it comes to games like Path of Exile and like other games like Last Epoch or Diablo, where you're like hyper focusing on racing to get to the end game, where this feels like it rewards you more for taking your time and exploring the story. I feel like maybe even it could be a good game for people who are just looking for a more casual ARPG experience. You know, sometimes you really just want to stick to like one kind of category because like that just happens to be the game type that you enjoy. But sometimes you just need something a little more chill to, you know, kick back on Friday night and just have a nice time and not feel like you have to worry about divines per hour or can you beat Uber Aberoth. Final thoughts. I think that Titan Quest 2 has a lot of potential, and I'm actually really looking forward to what the gameplay is going to look like at full release. I imagine that they're going to be adding even more masteries in, so, you know, more opportunity for experimentation. I do know the original Titan Quest had multiple expansions also to add to the game, so I imagine at some point they're going to do that too. I think it's like a very beautifully crafted game that has very nice music and a really nice play style that has a little bit of something for everyone. In my honest opinion, I think it's probably best to wait for full release, especially because it's something that is so like exploration driven. If you just want to have the full experience, I believe waiting for full release is going to be best. If you guys also had a chance to join the playtest for Titan Quest 2, let me know in the comments what you thought. Let me know if you're excited or have been excited and looking forward to this game. If you recommend checking out the original Titan Quest, or what was your experience with it. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button so you can get notified next time I post a video. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!